Hello YouTube viewers, this time this is going to be a different video from the habitual and usual gameplay. I want to talk about the new expansion that is going to be showing up soon in a few days. So I'm going to do some review of some aspects of the new expansion. So no gameplay in this one, so sorry about that, but soon I'm going to be featuring more games and you are going to be enjoying my misplays too and crazy ideas for decks. But for the time being, let's start with the cool new things that are going to be added soon. So first and foremost, I think the thing that I'm going to enjoy the most is the developers have announced new deck editor. At least it's going to be the same editor, but it's going to have much more filters, so you can search for specific cards according to the card type. For instance, the sub creatures such as vampires, allies, and so on. You can filter planeswalkers. Hopefully, types of instants, such as if you are focused, you want to find counter spells and so on. So that's going to be great, especially for the players that enjoy doing new decks, such as myself. So that's going to really help the deck crafting, and that should enhance the experience. And also, that should have been there from the beginning, but okay, let's not complain and go ahead with what we are going to have and enjoy it. The only thing, if some developer is listening to this, I should say that if you had implemented that from the starting point, it would have already been debugged. It would have made the game more appealing for newcomers. Yeah, you lost money by not doing a very polished product. But anyways, other important news that I took from the Facebook page from the game is that the old cards that we have learned to love and hate are going to stay. So even if some bans have been announced, such as the Smuggler's Sculptor or the Reflector Mage, that are banned in the standard paper format for Magic the Gathering. Those are going to stay in the game, so we are going to live with those banned card, overpowered card maybe. But since the card pool that we enjoy is limited, I think it's not such a big deal. For instance, we can only run 2 Smuggler Sculptures in any given deck from this game, so I don't think that's going to be very impactful. So let's proceed to see some of the new mechanics. So so I prepared a little presentation to make easier the discussion. So here, one of the most important things about the new expansion that's everything that comes from here on is about what I think. Well, maybe the former things too, but I think that the new expansion is way too powerful when compared with the previous expansions, and I think that we're going to see that the new decks are going to crash the former decks or enhance the previous decks to some point that if you don't have the new cards, you are not going to be able to compete against decks that runs the new ones. For instance, a new mechanic is going to be introduced. It's called Revolt. That it's all the Revolt cards says that something good happens if a permanent you control it left the battlefield this turn. Here I have an example. The Night Market Aeronaut, a 4-mana creature, 2/2. Not very impressive. It has flying, but it gains a +1/+1 counter if a permanent you control it left the battlefield this turn. That means that, for instance, you were in combat and some of your creatures got killed, then this is going to trigger. If the opponent exiled some of your creatures this also works. If you are sacrificing some of your creatures, it also counts. So there's many ways that you can trigger the revolt. And if you play cards such as this, I think that you are looking forward to activate the revolt. So some other characteristic from this new expansion is that we see the counters teams also. It's going to be enhanced in this expansion. In the Kaladesh we saw Kaladesh one, we saw a lot of synergistic cards with counters, and now we have much more of those. Not synergistic, but cards that produce +1/+1 counters, and cards that duplicate the number of counters. But I don't think though many of those are making its way to the game. Also, we have vehicles, we have energy. Yeah, so all the things, the new things that were introduced in Kaladesh are back and more powerful than ever. So in terms of Revolt, I think it's nice. So one might think that on its own it's already powerful, but we can improve even more the Revolt mechanic by using some previous cards that we know that were already playable before the revolt, and now they become much more useful for if you get to remove some card from your side of the battlefield, you gain the revolt. So there's many ways to do so, and I think the premium effects are the instants that flicker your cards, the essence flux, the displays, acrobatic maneuver, long road home. All those are going to exile a creature, then the creature returns. That means that the very same creature that has the revolt can become or again activated somehow. That's very powerful. I think we are going to be seeing a lot of this in combination with Revolt. Do not forget the Eldrazi Displacer that is extremely powerful already. Now it's going to be much more than before, and also the colorless cost that it requires can be paid using the Aether Hub, that the land that produces any color if you pay energy. So yeah, this is going to be extremely powerful now. And also any clue, Drastic Scion, Evolving Wilds, all these you sacrifice them to have an additional effect. That means that those also lets you use Revolt, and things such as Slap Hammer or Mina, and well, that legendary Minanden, I think it's the name, that it states that you return a land to your hand, also triggers, and of course sacrificing, removal, bounce spells, all of those are going to help you use Revolt. So another new mechanic that we are going to see is Improvised. Not much of a mechanic, but also a way to discount the cost for many powerful spells. So for each artifact you have, you can tap said artifact, and then you can pay the cost of some. Sorry, I don't know if you hear some cards alarm going on. I can't control that. Sorry about that. So you can pay one tap your artifacts, so you can discount the cost of powerful spells, such as, for instance, this creature is a 4/4 for 6 that has hex proof. That makes this one very appealing, and you can play for 1 blue. Maybe if you have 5 artifacts out, you tap all of your artifacts, and for just 1 blue mana you get the Bastion Inventor out. I think that's a little broken, and I don't see a way that previous deck can compete against such a thing. So Besides casting your own artifacts that could help to improvise, there's many artifact producing cards that could, yeah, break the game, I think. So if you're playing white, blue, or green, you have access to the investigate mechanic that creates clues, and the clues can be tapped very easily because you otherwise the clue you just want them for the drawing effect, and it's not any bother to tap them. Also, you can add Temidius Journal to any other deck that doesn't necessarily run white, blue, or green, because Temidius Journal is going to be producing clue tokens every turn. So that's pretty powerful to improvise. Then you can also get artifact creatures such as the Chief of the Foundry. So you can use creatures to pay the cost of other creatures or spells. That's already powerful. Think, for instance, on all the gear holds that are around. But also there's many way to duplicate, say, the artifact creatures. For instance, using Flame Shadow Conjuring. Oops. Here. There we go. Sahelis, the Planeswalker Sahelis, or the Artistry. You can duplicate your artifact creatures, and we are going to be seeing new spells that can duplicate uh, the artifacts, such as mechanized production. This one enchants an artifact and creates a copy on every upkeep, so you have access to an endless number of artifacts. This card is quite annoying, I think, if you are facing this one. Also, of course, you can create Thopters or Sebo tokens. You have access to that effect in every color out there, and there's many ways to use the. Only thing is that if you use artifact creatures to improvise, those creatures are going to be tapped, and then those can't block or attack anymore. So I think the clues are more powerful in general, but of course you can devise some decks to exploit the creature artifacts or the artifact creatures. Also remember that there happens to be a few number of untapped effects that are going to help you with your permanents, and also I don't recall the name, but there's a blue serpent that also gets a similar discount from having artifacts in place, but instead of having improvise, just the mana cost is going to be lower. And we have also the metal craft colossus was the name, that gains a discount from the artifacts you have in place. So yeah, improvise is a broken mechanic in my opinion, because it lets you play cards for free, and that means that it's very hard to stop the kind of decks. So the only thing that you can do against such a play is to do exactly the same and try to win the race. That's the thing. So far, we don't have enough tools in the game to break artifacts that can stop the improvise. There are some exceptions, so Reclamation Sage is going to be seen everywhere, but that's it. That's about it. I don't think there's more viable artifact supporting cards going around. So speaking of casting for free, there's a new mechanic. It doesn't have a name, but you can see that there are a number of sorceries that are, after you cast the sorcery, you can then cast another card for free. With the restriction that the card that you are casting afterwards has to have some converted mana cost, restricted, but you are playing a sorcery and then you cast something else for free. That's like paying. Yeah, that's just broken mechanic. I think if you, for instance, if you get to cast Barrel's expertise, you return up to 3 target artifacts and or creatures to their owner cards. So you can clear the path for your attackers. You can bring back something that you want to have in hand, so you can cast again, and after the fact, you can cast it for free if its cost is 4 or less. So that really, this is an end game spell that is going to win so many games, just as it is. Then you have from expertise, for instance, you create 3 servo tokens, so you can now improvise and also cast something for 3 or less. That's way too powerful. So yeah, I think this is going to be awful to face against if you don't have something similar to use from your side. You are going to lose against any of these cards. Um, I think I'm not sure about these ones, but I hope they work because that makes for those spells much more interesting, more powerful than they already are. If you have brain in a jar, I don't know if the clause of casting the free spell is going to apply, but imagine if that works. You can use brain in a jar. That is an artifact. Don't know that. So you have all the artifact synergies going on, and you can get to play a powerful sorcery at instant speed. Uh, if that one works, the game is going to break, but it's going to be really fun to do. So these two, I have my doubt, but you get to copy using Geist Blast or Insidious Will. You can copy target instant or sorcery. So I imagine, I'm not sure, we are going to have to try and test. If you copy one of these, I think you get to use 2 times the free cast plus the other effects. Well, we'll see. So the control decks are going to be a pain in the decks that we are going to be seeing. So now let's quickly see the cards from. I have highlighted some of the cards from the colors. These are the cards that have been announced to be included in the card pool from Magic Duels. And well, I have no time to discuss every single one of them, so just highlighting some of them. Here we see a white enchantment called Call for Unity. It has a revolt that triggers on each end step, and well, this enchantment gains a counter if the revolt has occurred, and the creature you control gets a +1/+1 for each counter that you have put on this Call for Unity. So a 5 mana enchantment, but I think it's powerful enough if you have many creatures, tokens, maybe servo artifacts, and you are activating the revolt on every turn. Yeah, this is a winning card. If the opponent can't remove the Call for Unity, you are certainly going to win. Conviction, a new aura enchantment. If we didn't have already enough annoying auras, this is going to be a card that everybody is going to want to play in the whiny deck with enchantments. It's an aura that gives enchanted creature +1/+3, so forget about killing the creature with damage. Also, you get to recover this aura back to your hand if you pay 1 white. So This card is it already is bad for on its own because I mean bad or way too overpowered. I'm thinking about facing against this card. If you are using the card, you are going to love it. If you are facing this card, you are going to be seeing this card over and over, played over and over. So you have to destroy the creature by means that are not doing dealing damage to the creature, and the opponent gets to recover the aura if you are destroying the creature. And also that you this activation can be used just for the sake of enabling revolt. So yeah, that's insane. This is an insane card that is going to see play on many decks. I foresee that it fits the Revolt team, it fits the Aura team. You can play just for the sake of saving valuable creatures from damage. Yeah. So white gets more powerful than it already was. Then we have the Solemn Recruit, a 3 mana white creature, double white. It's going to be expensive to play outside mono white color decks, but look at this double strike, a choo-choo with double strike. We already have some other creatures with the exactly same stats with the Iroas champion, red white, also three color cost choo-choo with double strike. But this one is going to be gaining counters at the end step if Revolt has been activated. So this is a monster because it gets buff on its own. So beware of this one. If you can't remove this and is left unattended on the battlefield, it's going to take over any game. So yeah, this you have to run removal just for this one. Yeah, that's going to be it. So I'm highlighting this, or I already mentioned the Bastion Inventor, but if you get a 4/4 creature with hexproof by paying maybe 1 blue, even if you have to pay, well, it's going to cost 6 if you don't have artifacts. But imagine that you are able to improvise at least you get to discount 2 or 3 mana from the wall cost is already a bargain. If you get to play for just 1 blue is broken, and having hexproof means that there's no much ways that this one can be removed. If you are playing with the other uh, if you are improvising, you already probably have more artifacts, so forcing a sacrifice is probably not going to do much against this card. And yeah, you need something languishes, some languish to remove the Bastion Inventor, most likely. So there are few answers to this one. So yeah, that's extremely powerful card already. Now we have this mechanized production. Already we saw that it has the ability to duplicate any artifact that you have enchanted at the beginning of your upkeep. So yeah, imagine if you are enchanted a Gear Hulk, for instance. Yeah, that's already extremely annoying for the opponent. You can enchant the Noxious Gear Hulk. You can enchant the Verdurous Gear Hulk. Yeah, you name it. But also, look at this. After you have made the copy, then if you control 8 or more artifacts with the same name as one another, you win the game. So yeah, that's an alternate winning condition, very dangerous if left unattended. So you uh, you don't necessarily have to copy You don't necessarily have to enchant the artifacts that trigger this alternate winning condition. So this is very dangerous if you had 8 clues, 8 thopters, 8 servo tokens, and you have played this um, on something, and the opponent can't remove this enchantment, then you win on your next upkeep. And recall that we have the Padim to give our artifacts hexproof. Uh, yeah, this card, the existence of this card is going to shape the metagame, because on the first few weeks of the expansions, everybody is going to have to run the Reclamation Sage or some other enchantment removal to deal with mechanized production. Yeah, that's how powerful this. The only thing, luckily for us, we there's a single copy on max in any single given deck, so that's it. That's the only thing that is going to prevent this from ruining the whole game. And then the other card that I'm highlighting from blue is the Metallic Rebuke. It's a counterspell, so a conditional counterspell. The You counter target spell unless its controller pays 3. But the thing about this one is that it has improvise. So it has the typical cost of 3 for counterspell. It is conditional. That's bad, because if the opponent can pay the 3, then the counterspell is not going to do much. But it has improvise. That means that if you had 2 untapped artifacts on play, you can cast the Metallic Rebuke for 1 single blue, and I think that is broken. That it's going to annoy so many players. And it doesn't make sense to not be playing artifacts with cards such as these two out there. So that's it. These 2 cards alone are enough to break the metagame. Everybody's going to be playing artifacts and artifact removal and enchantment removal on the first weeks from the expansion, and probably much even it's going to be everlasting, that effect. So a thing that I would like to see in the duels, but I don't think it's going to happen, is to some format restriction introduce, such a standard or something, so we don't have to I mean, the players with origin cards and Eldritch Moon card and Oath of the Gatewatch, yeah, those are not going to be able to compete with these cards. We have to limit somehow how the new players see the card pool. And if you are saving coins, I suggest that you only buy from the Aether Revolt expansion first, and then you start buying from the other expansions. So in black, I highlight this card. I think that black is the worst color at the current time, because black doesn't run anything that can destroy artifacts or enchantments. Therefore, it's very hard for black to deal with vehicles, to deal with powerful enchantments. So black needs some other color to be able to stand a chance against powerful decks. So, but despite that, there are some very interesting cards that are showing up with this expansion. We have Fatal Push. It's a powerful removal for a single black, and instant speed. We get to destroy a target creature if it has a converted mana cost of 2 or less, and that alone is extremely powerful removal. It's even better than the red removals that we love, such as Fiery Impulse. I think that anything that dies to Fiery Impulse also dies to Fatal Push, or it's quite possible that fatal push can kill things that um, the fiery improves can't, and conversely. But even more so, the fatal push has revolt. That means that you get to destroy a creature more powerful, and you can use this after you have blocked some nasty attack from the opponent, or after you have attacked, or maybe during combat with first strike. So this card is premium removal, over OP removal that we haven't seen before in black, and I think that there's no other card in the whole game that's going to be uh, better at removing creatures than the Fatal Push, because for 1 mana you can go. Uh, so this expansion, already you are casting things for free, and now you have too efficient. This is way too efficient removal spell. So yeah, that's it. So other card that has caught my attention, or I mean, every card here is powerful, but requires some sort of synergy. So, but this one on its own is already incredibly powerful. So we have Gifted Edgeborn. It's a 2/3 for 2 mana. So already premium stats. The only thing is double black, so you have to focus on having a black deck there. But it has both Death Touch and Lifelink, so this one is excellent. Also, when it attacks and blocks, and it's also a vampire, so you can add this to your previous vampire decks that has, of course, black vampires on them. But yeah, this one, it's a very good vampire, and even if you don't have the vampire theme, it's already good enough on its own. It has Death Touch, it has Lifelink, and it's going to be a very, very powerful creature for just 2 mana. Is going to be outrageously good. And then we have Resourceful Return. It's a sorcery for 1 generic and a black. You get to return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand, and if you control an artifact, you get to draw a card. So this this does what black always did, but now for merely 2 mana, and with a very powerful synergy, you get to draw a card, so you gain 2 cards out of this spell. Also, you might use this one with Delirium, Zombie. Yeah, we previously seen some similar cards. There was one card that did almost the same, but the condition for drawing a card is that the creature you returned was a zombie creature. Now I think this is much more flexible in this expansion, and it's going to generate a very huge card advantage for you. You get to also works very nice into the Revolt. Yeah, this is I think for what black always is trying to do, this is going to be very good. So I have highlighted it. And finally, I think we are going to be seeing quite a lot of this Japanese expertise. Is like it works pretty similar to what language does, not so strongly, but still it's going to clear many boards. With this effect, all creatures get -3/-3 until end of turn, so one less point than, well, there's one less negative point than the language, but still incredibly powerful to clear board. So when you use language, most of the time you are not taking down so many large creatures. The language is useful even if the opponent is only has 1/1. So this is going to take care of many token decks or many aggressive decks, and it's another language, another substitute for language that you can add, and also you get to cast a free card. So I think in that makes this superior to language in many respects. Just because of that, I think that every black deck is going to run this card. There's no downside in running this one other than losing your own stuff to the effect. But if you have this card in the deck, you are playing, you know that that's going to happen, and you can build your deck properly, taking that effect into account. So we reach red. I think that red doesn't got enough power. I think that the red is the least beneficial color in this expansion. There are some interesting and cool stuff, but all the red cards I think require a big deal of synergy. So no, I don't see singular red cards that on their own can take the game. We see Shock, staple from Magic the Gathering from the beginning. It's a reprint. Shock is a favorite among the people that plays red. Loves this card. It's an instant. It deals 2 damage to target creature or player. So it's quite similar to Fiery Impulse, but you can target player. And here we see a card that it's going to be able to deal with planeswalkers too. So I think the flexibility of Shocks is going to make this one show up much more than Fiery Impulse. Then we have the Wrangle. It's a sorcery and lets you gain control of target creature with power 4 or less until end of turn. So this is an Act of Treason spell. So if you play Act of Treason, your deck is going to have to play around those effects, but we have, for the first time here, we see a 2-mana spell that does the Act of Treason. There is a restriction in the power of the target, but I think that this card is very powerful if you have the proper deck to exploit the Act of Treason. So if you already had that deck, you are going to want to add or replace your Act of Treason with Wrangles. So that's very good. So now move on to the green. We have the Aid from the Cowl, another nice enchantment with Revolt. Look at this. If Revolt has occurred, then you reveal a card from the top of your library, and if it's a permanent card, you might put it onto the battlefield. Otherwise, you might put it on the bottom of your library. So, essentially, you have 5 mana, you play this enchantment, and then you have something. It's quite similar to what Nissa Planeswalker does, but then you can play cards without paying cost that is definitely broken. Maybe your deck has Yulamog, your deck has Kozilek, you name it, any big creature you want, it's going to be on the battlefield without paying anything, without doing anything. You just have to remove some permanent from the battlefield, and then you have it. This you are running green too, so having large creatures is not going to be a problem. Yeah, I think this enchantment can well, you have to top deck something nice, but it's yeah, it's like 50-50. This one takes the game. That's it. That's how powerful it is. You can flip a coin every turn, and you win the flip. You win the game. That's about what the text should read here. And then I highlighted the Druid of the cold, since we have a 1/3 power creature for 2 mana that can give us some mana acceleration, mana ramping. Um, we, uh, we well, there's no much other ramping that we seen in the last 2 or 3 expansions before this. We haven't really get access to nice mana ramping, and having 3 life total, it's very um, very relevant here, because now this doesn't die to damage spells. For instance, the Death Cap Cultivator is a 2/1 that can also produce mana. We have that Life Spring Druid that can generate mana from any color, but has 1 life point. So the survival rate of the Druid of the Cold is going to be much more playable, much more reliable, and also it's an elf, so if you like to play elves, this is going to do wonders for that. But I think that this one is already a very nice addition for any green deck, and many other decks that like to use green for ramping. This is going to greatly help in that respect. Then what else? We have Monstrous Onslaught. It's a 5 mana sorcery. Yeah, this is a kind of conditional. It deals X damage divided as you choose among any number of target creatures, where X is its greatest power among creatures you control as you cast Monstrous Onslaught. So I highlighted this one because this is like a board, can act as a board clear if you have a large creature. So that's a new kind of effect that Greens does not have before this expansion, a board clear effect. So that's, I think it's going to be relevant, but it's quite of conditional. You have to have a large creature in order to have some value out of this. But if you are on green, it's quite possible that you have huge creatures out there with green. Remember that the counter themes, counters +1/+1 counters is encouraged in this expansion. So it's if you play this card, it means that you have some really big creatures that are going to let you clear the board. And that's one of the downsides of playing with green large creatures, is that those are easily stopped by tokens deck, but now you can clear tokens, 1/1 tokens, using the onslaught. So yeah, I think that mono green decks are going to really enjoy this card. Now I'm going to skip all the multicolor cards, because I think every single one of them can see play in the proper decks, and it's going to take too long to discuss all of them. I think they are very powerful, so let's skip them. You're going to see in the proper time, you are going to see all the multicolor cards played. We have 2 new planeswalkers, powerful creatures, sorceries, enchantments, okay, you name it. So let's go ahead into the vehicles here, and our other artifacts. I'm highlighting this one vehicle is very cool. For 3 you have a vehicle that cruises for 1. It has flying. It's a 3/5. Also, this is going to be a very tough one for the opponents to deal with if you are into vehicles. And also this one is going to generate energy when this one attacks, and also you can gain lifelink. Yeah, so very decent vehicle. You of course are going to be requiring some pilots for crewing, but yeah, I think if your deck, if you had a vehicles deck, add this one. You are not going to regret it. Then we have the Consulate Dreadnought. I think this card is another one that is broken. Look at this. 1 mana. The cost of this card is 1 mana. So maybe you want to play low cost artifacts because this expansion has too many artifact synergies. So 1 mana artifact is already dangerous. Then yeah, the crew cost here for this vehicle is quite expensive. It's 6, but you get a 7/11 creature for 1 mana. I think that is absolutely insane, and you can override the crew cost. There is, for instance, start your engines, a sorcery back from Kaladesh that makes every single vehicle self-crew and also gives those bonus attack. There's some other things that can activate vehicle without having to crew, and also the crew cost of 6 is not actually that expensive. The only thing is that if you can crew this for 6, well, you are only gaining 1 point of extra damage, but you gain 11 toughness. So I think this card is exceptional at blocking incoming attacks. Not so good for attacking unless you can bypass the crew and make this one into a vehicle without paying the crew, but otherwise is a premium defender, this Dreadnought. So another vehicle I have highlighted is the Heart of Kiran, a flyer 4/4 with vigilance for just 2 mana. Yeah, this, if you like the Smuggler's Copter, I think this one is for you too. This, of course, you are not going to be drawing, but look at this. The crew cost is 3, but you can also crew by removing a loyalty counter from a planeswalker. So yeah, Heart of Kiran, it has vigilance, so you can attack and defend with this 4/4 flyer. Yeah, for just 2 mana, I think it's extremely powerful. Of course, any of these artifacts that you see here is also very nice, but yeah, we don't have time to discuss every single one of them. So many revolt synergies, many artifact synergies, many improvise. Yeah. So the final 2 ones, mobile garrison. It's a 3 cost vehicle with a crew cost of 2, and the thing that I appreciate about this particular one, is that when this attacks, you get to untap another artifact that you control. So the untap effect now it's going to be very relevant here. You untap an artifact or creature. That means that you can use that to tap again. You can crew something else. You can pay the improvise. You can activate some of the abilities. Yeah, any untap effect in Magic the Gathering can be exploited to do so many things that I think this mobile garrison is going to see a lot of play in control decks, because the untap is going to be ridiculously powerful. And finally, the Treasure Keeper, 4 mana artifact creature, but it's a 3/3 creature, not that impressive. But when this one dies, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal an unknown card with converted mana cost 3 or less, and you may cast that card without paying its mana cost. Alright, the revealed cards that you are not casting are going to be placed in the bottom of your library in a random order. So this is like similar to the Matter Reshaper from the Eldrazi guys, but I think this is much more powerful because you can play a spell, a non-land card. That means it can be a planeswalker, it can be a sorcery, it can be an instant, and that will happen with this one dice. So if you have some sacrifice effect, and you have maybe assume this, you can scry somehow. The dream play would be you scry, so you know the card that you have on top of your library, or maybe more than one or two cards that are going to show up next. Then you have some instant sacrifice effect that can sacrifice outlet that you can use to destroy your treasure creeper on purpose. So you have scried. You are in the middle of the combat or at some other point in the game. You maybe want a counter spell. Maybe you need a new blocker. So you sacrifice the treasure keeper, you reveal your top card, and it's exactly what you want to use in that moment. And you cast that card for free. You don't pay the mana cost. So I think this can enable so many interesting plays. It's going to be difficult to pull out that one, but I think that if you are going for artifacts, this one is definitely a staple in so many decks. So that's going to be it. I hope you have enjoyed this review, and soon we're going to be meeting this expansion. It's announced to appear in a few days. And well, meanwhile, I'm going to be trying to use some of the typical decks from the current expansions. But until next time, I hope to see you soon, and sayonara!